In today's video, we are going to go over the best drills to do to improve your balance confidence when going up and down ramps. In this video, you're going to learn what are some of the main reasons why you might not feel confident when you're going up and down a ramp, and of course, drills that you can start doing today to improve your confidence and decrease your risk of falling when you are navigating those ramps. If you're new to this channel, I'm Tara, I'm a neurologic physical therapist, and on this channel we talk about anything and everything related to mobility, health, fitness, and mindset with the end goal of empowering you with as many tools as possible to take full ownership of your rehab and your overall health. And all that said, let's go into some of the main issues that you might be dealing with structurally in your body that could be causing you to not feel confident on a ramp. And one is not having adequate ankle range of motion. So when you're going up ramps, you have to have a little bit of what we call ankle dorsiflexion. And of course, when you're going down ramps, you do need your feet to be able to point down. So what does that mean for some of you guys who I know you're probably already asking yourself this question is, what if I have an AFO? So the reason I mention the ankle range of motion is for some of you, your ankles, they're in a fixed position. There's nothing that you can do about that because you're in a brace. So if you are in a brace, the reason I mention it is not that you're going to get that range of motion, but that it is going to make you feel off balance. And so you need to have strategies in place to compensate for the fact that you don't have full ankle range of motion. So that's for those of you that are in a brace, and some of the drills are going to focus on that. But for those of you that aren't in a brace, of course, you would want to make sure that you do have adequate range of motion. So you would need about 10 to 15 degrees to feel confident. Now, we call this 0 degrees. So for some of you, you might think of this as like 90-degree angle at your ankle if your shin bone is vertical. We kind of consider that 0 degrees. So this would be like 10 or 15 degrees of ankle dorsiflexion. So that's what you want to aim for if you are not in a brace. If you don't have that, so let's say you can only get your ankles to neutral, well, then you are going to feel like you're falling backwards when you are going up an incline. Now, coming down an incline, most of you don't have trouble pointing your toes. So that's not necessarily a problem. But what I will say is that when your toes are pointed, everything up the chain has to work a little bit differently. So all your muscles to keep you vertical, everything is kind of shifted just a little bit. So that might be why you feel uncomfortable going down a ramp. There's other reasons too, and we're going to get into that. But one of the potential reasons is you're just not used to coordinating your glute muscles and your knee muscles and everything with your feet in this pointed position. So just something to be mindful of. And if you're not in a brace, that is something that we're going to work on today in the drills that we go through to make sure you can build that confidence. The other thing is if you have spasticity or an abnormal synergy pattern, getting your feet into that pointed position might also trigger a spasm. So we've talked about this quite a bit on here, that spasms are involuntary contractions in the muscles. So what that means is that if you get into this pointed foot position, your foot, your ankle muscles or your calf muscles just might stay contracted. One, because you're under a little bit more stress because you're not comfortable with that position. But just know that you're gonna have these abnormal muscle contractions in your legs by changing that foot position. It's just something to be aware of, but hopefully we're gonna address that in some of the drills that we go through today. But that's really, really important to understand. The other big reason why you might not feel confident when you're going up and down ramps is some of you after a neurologic injury, either because you lose some sensation in your feet or for whatever reason, you've lost the ability to automatically stay vertical. It's something that's just built into our systems that if the surface under our feet changes, we're going to automatically adjust to right ourselves. Okay, I brought this example up a few times in a couple of recent videos, but a baby is a perfect example. If you take a baby and you tip them to the side, what do? They try and kind of right themselves. If you turn them the other side, what do? They right themselves. That's kind of hardwired into us, right? But after a neurologic injury, sometimes you lose that automaticity in that righting reaction, right? So what that means is it might not be automatic for you to recenter yourself when the surface under your feet changes. So when you're going up a ramp and that foot position changes, you do have to kind of pitch forward just a little bit with your center of mass. And when you're going down, you have to pitch back just a little bit. Now, you can still probably do that. It just might not be automatic, which is why you aren't feeling confident on a ramp. You're thinking about all of these other things, not tripping over your feet, making sure you don't lose your balance. And on top of that, you need to think about recentering yourself. Well, some of those things are just going to get tossed out the window. And from what I've seen, one of those potential kind of corrections that if it's not automatic, that kind of gets tossed out the window is that slight adjustment that you make with your center of mass. Okay, so practicing that and making that more automatic is just one less thing that you're going to have to think about when you're navigating a ramp out in the real world and you're worried about people bumping into you or you getting in other people's way. All the things that I hear patients say that they worry about when they're out in public. Let's make as many things automatic as possible so that you don't have to think about them. And the last kind of potential reason why you might not feel confident on ramps, we've talked about this quite a bit. We talk about it quite a bit when it comes to stairs, but it's also very true when it comes to ramps, and that is eccentric control. So our muscles work concentrically, meaning they shorten to lift us up or power us up, or let's use your bicep. That's a concentric contraction. Your bicep is shortening, right? An eccentric contraction is your bicep lengthening under load, okay? And it's extremely important for slowing down, okay? So all of our leg muscles have to do this. So when you're going down that ramp, you have to be able to lengthen your quadricep muscles under tension. It needs to stay contracted and lengthen at the same time. That is something that just is not natural after a neurologic injury. I think it has a little bit to do with some of the spasticity that you guys are dealing with, but it's just not automatic. It's something you really do need to practice when you're not in a situation where you're worried about falling, and that's what we're going to do today. So hopefully that rationale makes sense. You can kind of visualize yourself going up and down a ramp and see if any of that resonates with you, and then just work on the exercises that we go through today that address your potential specific root cause problem that you think might be contributing the most to your insecurity when you're going up and down ramps. The first exercise, pretty easy, is you're just going to stand. Okay, what does this do? Standing on an incline? Well, if you don't have the range of motion in your ankles, you're going to be stretching your ankles. If you do have the range of motion in your ankles, you're learning how to automatically adjust your center of mass when you're standing on something that's putting your feet in a little bit of a different position. If you're someone in an AFO and your AFO is fixed, meaning it won't allow your ankle to bend, you're going to stand and step this foot slightly forward and backwards. Now, the reason you're going to do a forward-backward step is because you aren't going to be stretching your ankle because your AFO is keeping your foot in a fixed position. What you're trying to do is relearn how to move the rest of your body to keep your center of mass over your foot when your ankle is back in this direction. Okay, so because your brace might be in 90 degrees, it's stuck like this, you're going to use this activity to figure out how do you adapt or adjust the rest of your body given that brace is back in that position. Okay, that's why you're going to do a little bit of a forward backward step when you do this one if you're in an AFO. Okay, not in an AFO, you're just going to stand on it, stretching your ankles and also just getting used to maintaining your center of mass over your base of support when your feet are in this little bit of a different position. Hold that for about a minute. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing in the other direction. Just going to stand. This one is the one that's a little bit more challenging for those of you that have had a neurologic injury. I think it's just something about your feet being in this pointed position that really makes you a little bit uncomfortable. So again, this is for those of you that aren't in an AFO. If you're in an AFO, put your involved foot on there, kind of towards the bottom. I wouldn't put it up too high. Have it towards the bottom, just so that your heel is up a little bit higher, and then step. Again, you're trying to get used to what do you do if you're in a fixed AFO to adapt or adjust knowing that your ankle is fixed. Now, for those of you that are in an AFO, what I see most of the time, part of the problem is that when your heel hits, you're expecting your foot to go down and it doesn't. So it does just create this kind of jerky motion. And I think that's what makes a lot of you guys that are in an AFO feel insecure, is that you step, you're expecting your foot to go down, but instead it kind of does this, you have that kind of a moment in that step because your ankle is in that fixed position. So you're just kind of getting used to, what does that feel like? Just kind of that awkwardness of that sensation. Okay, so love these little foam wedges. They're super cheap and they can be used a lot of different ways, not just for stretching, but also in building the skills that you need to be able to navigate in the real world. Okay, so I'll put a link for these foam wedges in the description below this video. Next, a wobble board. Love, love, love a wobble board. Strongly recommend that you pull this into a corner. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to stand on it. Okay, and you're going to rock it back as far as you can. If you can get it to touch the ground in the back. And then you're going to rock it forward. Rock it back. Again, very similar to the wedge, you're getting used to adjusting your center of mass, but now you have to do it in a more like automatic nature. There you were kind of static, you were just standing, but with the ground moving, that reaction time, in my opinion, does need to be just a little bit faster. So you're trying to tap the front of that down and then just get to a point where you automatically adjust your center of mass based on that. So tip the front of it down. So let me show that to you from the side. Again, do it in a corner. Make sure you have plenty of safety nets around you. Tap the back. Tap the front. Your main goal is you're trying to move that center of mass, keeping it directly over your feet as your foot position changes. Now again, I get this question a lot on here. If you wear an AFO for safety, do this with your AFO on. The goal of this is to figure out how do you need to adapt your body when you have an ankle that is fixed in one position. Okay, if that's too challenging for you, start with your feet staggered and do the same thing. You're going to get a lot of the same kind of challenges that you would get, but it's just a little bit easier not having your feet side by side. And again, when you tip it back, you're shifting your body forward. When you tip it forward, you're shifting your body back. Then we do a little bit of a ramp setup. Now we're going to kind of take it to the next level and actually do like a full step. If you have an AFO, wear your AFO, and you're just learning how do you have to adjust your body weight when your foot is on an incline and you can't bend your ankle, okay? So going up, stepping all the way up, and then going up and stepping down. Remember, if you have that AFO on, you want to get used to that sensation of your knee kind of being forced forward because your ankle is in that fixed position, right? You kind of have to get used to that sensation. And so that's why you practice it in a controlled environment, because you want your body's reaction in the situation to be automatic. And the only way you're going to get to that point potentially is by practicing it a lot. How many times do babies, think about when you were raising kids, did they cruise along furniture? How many hours did they spend? Well, actually, they learn that pretty quick, but they spend a lot of time with every developmental skill before they move on. Why do they do that? Because their brain is building those neural networks. You are going to have to do the same thing. Or if you don't, because you don't have time, I tell you this so that you just have realistic expectations that you're not going to be automatic at these things the one time a week that you actually encounter a ramp in the real world. That's not what's going to make this automatic. It's got to be something that you build into your routine, that you practice regularly, so that once a week when you do go to that ramp out in the community, it'll be more automatic and you won't have to think so much about it. Okay? So, and then if you're not in an AFO, what we're working on is that eccentric control, learning how to get all those muscles to work together with your foot in a slightly pointed position and being able to slow your body down at the same time. I think that is what makes a lot of you uncomfortable that aren't in a brace. There's so much going on. Your foot is pointed, which you're not used to standing on a pointed foot, and you're having to slow your body down, especially if you use a lot of spasticity. I've talked about this quite a bit. Spasticity are involuntary contractions, and they're very much like light switches. They're on or they're off. The muscles either fully contract or it's fully relaxed, okay? And it doesn't have that ability. When you use spasticity, which is an involuntary contraction, when you're using that involuntary contraction to support your body weight, which a lot of people do and they don't realize it, you're using this involuntary kind of light switch type system. And what happens is a lot of you just figure out when you're in a certain position, your spasticity in your quads kicks in and that keeps you upright. You're not consciously thinking about this, but this is kind of what your brain is doing behind the scenes, is it's figuring out, okay, when can we pull out this spasticity lever and use it, because that part of the brain is damaged that controls this, right? So this is like our backup system, or your brain's backup system, I think. We don't really know why spasticity happens, but that's one of my theories, is that but it's not a good system. It is like a light switch. It either contracts or it relaxes. So if you're using that light switch system and you're in a situation where here you can use it, your quads can stay locked out, right? But either you need to bend your knee or your quads are gonna stay locked out and you're gonna fall, right? You have to get used to working what I call like out of synergy, or not relying on that spasticity. Getting comfortable standing on a knee that's slightly bent, right? Now that involuntary contraction in your quads isn't gonna work. And can you still support your body weight? Can you still support your body weight using muscle control, coordinated muscle control, and not relying on those spastic patterns, right? So that is why we practice these things in a controlled environment, okay? But that is it for this video. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did and you're new to this channel and you like these kinds of videos and you want to see more videos like this, make sure before you leave today that you hit that subscribe button and you turn on that notification bell so that you'll get notified every time I upload new videos. If you're new to this channel, you might not know this, but we do have membership programs. With all of our membership programs, you do get access to the PDF handouts that go along with these videos on YouTube. This video does have a PDF handout, which will have pictures and descriptions of all the exercises that we went over today, so that you can easily just print that out, take it into your workout area in your home, and make it very easy to start implementing some of these exercises. To learn more about our membership programs and all of the perks that go along with them, you can visit rehab-hq.com. I enjoyed spending time with y'all today, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.